Will Russia attack Ukraine tomorrow? That is the big question, and frankly, the only question at the moment. Russia's drills are almost over. The US says an invasion is imminent. It could begin, quote unquote, any time. Even Ukraine believes there could be war. Their president said Russia may attack on the 16th of February. That's tomorrow. So is Russia invading Ukraine tomorrow? Where are they getting this information from? You won't believe what the Ukrainian president said. He said he was just quoting some media reports. So much for military intelligence and what have you. In another instance, he's said to have been joking about an attack. Well, it's not a laughing matter anymore. These claims have led to panic. 13 countries have ordered evacuations. 39 countries have warned against travel to Ukraine. The latest on that list is India. India has advised its citizens, especially its students, to leave Ukraine. If the attack is indeed happening tomorrow, it may already be a little late in the day for such advisories. But is the attack happening? Let's tell you what's the update on the ground. There is more proof of expanding Russian deployments. New satellite images have come out. They were clicked in the last 48 hours. The buildup is indeed massive. In Belarus, in Crimea, and in Western Russia, there are several large contingents of troops, attack helicopters, fighter jets, combat units, basically everything that you may need to launch an offensive. The Russians have all of it near the border with Ukraine. How many troops are we talking about? Here's what the latest estimates say. Russia has more than 60% of its ground forces deployed to the front. Most of them have been engaged in a drill since last week. But here's a twist in the tale. Russia also pulled back some troops today, and it did so publicly. Moscow officially announced this move. Some units in southern and western Russia were asked to return.
As the training comes to an end, the troops, as usual, will march back to their home stations. Units from the southern and the western military districts that completed their tasks already have started loading on trains and motor vehicles. They will start moving to their home bases. Individual units will march on their own in military columns.
Is this the first sign of de-escalation then? Well, Ukraine is skeptical. The Ukrainian foreign minister addressed the press today and he made two broad claims. Number one, the Russian escalation has been contained. And number two, he'll believe the claims of de-escalation when he sees it.
Russia constantly makes various statements. That's why we have the rule. We won't believe when we hear. We will believe when we see. When we see troops pulling out, we will believe in de-escalation.
Повіримо у деескалацію.
So for Ukraine, today's withdrawal does not count. Kiev wants a full de-escalation. In Moscow, though, a different kind of offensive is in the making. Lawmakers want Vladimir Putin, and by extension Russia, to recognize Luhansk and Donetsk as independent states. Now, these are two regions of eastern Ukraine controlled by separatists. Russia tried to capture them when it annexed Crimea. The offensive failed. But Moscow did manage to install puppet governments. Now, Russian lawmakers want them labeled as breakaway states.
Today, we do not trust the Kiev regime. Now it is out of control and impossible to reach agreements with them. Ukraine is now led by fascists, right-sector nationalists and supporters of Anglo-Saxon countries. By making this proposal, we do only one thing. We offer protection to the people.
The Russian Duma has voted in favor of this resolution. If Putin approves it, it will be a grave provocation for Ukraine, a step towards war. And Europe is hoping to avert it. Another leader landed in Moscow today, German Chancellor Olaf Scholz. He met Putin. He got the same treatment as Macron, the same 20-foot-long white table and the extreme social distance. Just like Macron, the German leader refused to take a Wuhan virus test in Moscow, and his visit made virtually no progress. Scholz says Putin is ready to talk, but few are taking that claim seriously. NATO says it hasn't seen any serious withdrawal from Russia.
So far, we have not seen any de-escalation on the ground, not seen any signs of reduced Russian military presence on the borders of Ukraine. But we will continue to monitor and to follow closely what Russia is doing. And the signs coming from Moscow about a willingness to continue to engage in diplomatic efforts That gives some reason for cautious optimism, but we will, of course, follow very closely what's happening on the ground and whether this is reflected in some real de-escalation of the Russian military build-up in and around Ukraine.
The US seems to agree. It is closing its embassy in Kiev. American diplomats are relocating to Lviv in western Ukraine. Washington says this is a temporary move. American citizens have been asked to move out immediately from both Ukraine and Belarus. The latest travel advisory says Russia could, quote-unquote, attack Ukraine any day now, and tensions are high in the region. For Americans in Belarus, the instructions are clear. Leave now. Why Belarus? Because it's a Russian ally, and Washington fears American citizens could be detained there. What about America's allies? The United Kingdom is singing the same tune. It says a Russian invasion is imminent.
We still believe that an invasion of Ukraine is very likely, and it could be imminent. We know the Russians are highly prepared, that they have the troops surrounding Ukraine, and they could do it in very short order.
Ukraine is observing a day of unity tomorrow. He says the threats of an invasion are just meant to scare them into submission. The next 24 hours and the next course of this conflict, in fact, will be decided not in Kiev, but in a region in eastern Ukraine, Donbass. WION is now available in your country. Download the app now and get all the news on the move.